Good afternoon, class. Today is a tutorial video that I will be making in regards to the use of basics of a calculator. So all I'm going to cover is the basics and some really quick tricks that you can input to make the calculator experience a lot easier. Okay, now just some terminology. Okay, this is the TI-84 plus CE. You are lucky because this is a really handy calculator. There are a lot of tools, there are a lot of resources within this calculator. And we will cover, hopefully, a lot of really cool tips and tricks that will make the calculator experience a lot easier for you. Now, this is the home screen, okay? Second mode, which is blue button here, second mode, that always takes you back to the home screen. Okay, so if I push y equals and then I do second mode, it takes me back to the home screen. Okay, so if you ever want to reset, start over, you were doing something and then you got lost, second mode is your primary resource to start over. Now, there's also the trick of second and then plus, which is all the way over here, plus, and then you want to do reset, which is 7, and then it'll say all RAM, which is 1, and then reset, which is 2. That will clear the RAM, okay? And then enter, okay? So second plus 7, 1, 2, and you can do it really quick and it'll do it. Okay, so now to basics, okay? Algebra 1 kids, you're working with function notation. Okay, so let's just go over basics. Okay, so again, I go to Y1, and this opens up the function window. Okay, so you can plot a lot of different functions, and you have access to 9 of them. 9. So you can graph up to 9 functions. It's really nice, and they have it color-coded. My calculator, the TI-83, doesn't have it color-coded, so I have to be able to distinguish between one from another. Okay, so you guys are lucky. Okay, so the equation that I did in class the last couple times was x squared minus 3. So this is where x is. Okay, so alpha, right next to alpha, there's x. There's the squared, which is right next to right next to the x to the negative 1. It's right below it. Okay, there's x squared. And it's right also above log. So if you have trouble finding this button, it's right above log. Okay, and then the minus button is all the way over here. And then 3 is here. Okay, so all I did was type in x squared minus 3. Okay, so remember, f of x is saying it's a function of x. Okay, y equals f of x, they're interchangeable. Okay, so we have x squared minus 3. What does it look like? Well, push graph, and beauty happens. Okay, we have x squared minus 3. This is our graph. Okay, now we can see a table of values. Okay, so on a test, you may get a table of values, you will get the function, but the table may not be filled in. They will ask you to fill it in. So second, and then graph, give you the table. Okay, it will list all the table values for x squared minus 3. Okay, and you can use the arrow keys to go up. So you enter the negative realm, and oops, sorry, second mode. See, second mode, home screen. Okay, let's do it again. Second table. Okay, so arrow keys up, and then arrow keys down takes you back down. Okay, so depending on the table that you're required to fill in, you may need to go up to the negatives or you may need to go down to further positive integers. Okay, so that is table. All right, so y equals gets you to your function window. Graph shows the graph, and then second graph gives you the table. All right, so if I ask you to find the value of f of 5, okay? So we are trying to find the value when x is 5, and you're allowed to use a calculator on a test. Go to second and go to trace. This opens up 7 possibilities. Value, 0, minimum, maximum, intersect, dy dx, and that last one is integral f of x dx. Do not worry about the last 2, okay? we will not cover those, but we will be using the first 5, okay? So we want to calculate the output given the input. We use value, and that is the first one. So I'm going to push 1, okay? You can also push enter. That is viable as well. Okay, so I have x equals, and I said value for 5. So I plug in 5. Okay, so x equals 5. The calculator will ask you, what do you want your x to be? You give them the input. You press enter, it gives you the output. Y is 22, that's our output. Okay, so if I asked you what is f of 5, you would write 22, and you're done. Now, that is if you know the input. What happens if you don't know the input, but you know the output? Okay, so again, the example in class I gave was try to find x if f of x is 6. Well, you go back to y equals, go to your arrows, and you plug in 6. Okay? So you'll have 2 lines. You'll have your blue line, which is x squared minus 3. You'll have your red line, which is 6. You press graph. And there you go. That horizontal line signifies y equals 6. Okay? I want to find out the x values that satisfy that x squared minus 3 equals 6. So I go to second, I go to trace, and this time I choose intersect. Intersect is option 5. Okay? So this will ask you 3 separate questions. Question 1, what is your first curve? Which curve do you want to use first? Okay? You can toggle between curves using the arrow keys. Okay? I'm going to go to what will probably be what looks like my left, but is actually my right to you. Okay? I get close to the intersection point, but I don't actually put it on the intersection point. Okay? I push enter. It says, great, you gave me the first curve. Is this your second curve? Okay? Then you say, oop, wrong way. I go and I put it below. Okay? As long as it's anywhere near the intersection point, you're good. Okay? I push enter. It says, do you want me to guess? You push enter one more time. There's your intersection, and that value is -3. Okay? So y is 6 when x is -3. Okay? I'd like for you to try it for the other side. Okay? So I did it for one side. You can test to make sure you understand the steps, and you should be able to get it for the other side. You should get 3. X equals 3. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear. So clear button is all the way next to vars. I'm going to clear the first one, go down, I'll clear the second one. Okay, so now it's all clear. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to input values into a list, and that is through stat. Stat is right next to the X button. Okay, click stat, and you have edit, calc, and tests. You want edit. And more specifically, you want the first option. So you can push enter or you can push 1. You have a list now. It gives you various lists. Okay. For this example, I will do what I did in class. I inputted 1, enter, 2, enter, 3, enter, 4, enter, 5, enter. So I have the first 5 numbers. L1 is going to be my X. That is my X values. Okay. I go across. I'm going to put my Y values. Now, I did 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to change it up a little bit so you just see a different idea. Okay, let's do 5, enter, 6, enter, 7, enter, 8, enter, and 9, enter. Okay, so in one list I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In my second list I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now I'm kind of going to go first into stat plots, and then I will show you how you can get the linear function. So to show just these points in a graph, click second, and then y equals, and that opens up the plot window. Okay, all the plots are going to be off. Okay, there is an option at 5 where you turn all the plots on. That is not necessary for this example. Just push enter, and it will take you to the plot 1 screen. Right now it is off. I want it on, so I just push enter, and now it's on. Okay, I can actually see this in a graph. If I push graph, it plots those 5 points on a graph. Okay, this is discrete data. So when we discuss discrete data, this is an example of discrete data. And now you can actually calculate and make a line that will give you continuous data. How do you do that, you ask? Go to stat, and instead of sticking with edit, we'll scroll over to calc. Okay, there are lots of options. Okay, I think this is going to be a line. So I'm going to test out by pushing number 4. Okay. LinReg stands for linear regression, and it's just a fancy term for we're going to make a line. We're going to make this into a line. Okay. L1 is my x. I want that to be my x. L2 is my y. I want that to be my y. So I scroll down. I'm going to skip frequency list. I don't need it. And I don't need store rec eq. I press calculate by pushing enter. And it gives me the slope intercept form, which we will discuss in the next unit. Y equals ax plus b. A is 1, so that tells me that's just x. And b is 4. So my equation for this line is y equals x plus 4, or in function notation, f of x equals x plus 4. I'm going to plot that, or put it, sorry, not plot it, but put it into y equals x plus 4. Okay, let's see if it fits those 5 points that I plotted earlier. So I go to graph, and it does go through those 5 points. So here's an example of continuous data as well as discrete data. Okay, so what are the quick buttons that you need to know? Okay, there is second mode. That takes you back to the home screen. Okay, y equals allows you to graph functions. Graph will show those graphs, will show those functions graphed. Second, graph gives you a table. Second, trace, if you want to find the output and you're given the input, you use value, which is number 1. If you want to find the input given the output, you use intersect. Okay. Second mode. Second mode. Okay. If I want to create a list, I use stat and I do option 1, edit. That will give me my list. If I want to calculate and see, is this a line? Is this a parabola? Is this a cubic? I use stat calculate, and I can use 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so on and so forth. We're focusing solely on number 4, linreg. Okay, couple really quick things before I call it a day. If you go to y equals, okay, you have x plus 4. I am curious to see if that intersects with, let's say 16. So I put in 16 in y2. A standard graphing window goes from -10 to 10 for your x and -10 to 10 for your y. And you can see that if you push window. -10 to 10, x scale is 1. -10 to 10, y scale is 1. That is a standard graphing calculator window. When I graph this, and I'm going to go ahead and you don't need to do this, but I'm going to now turn off my plot so you can see what's going on. Okay, I go to graph. It's going to graph y plus x, and 16 doesn't appear. Okay, that's because 16 is above the window that we are in. To fix that, go to zoom, okay, and you will push option, you'll scroll down to option 0, zoom fit, okay? As soon as you open up zoom, you can push 0, okay? You can push 0, and it will automatically resize it so the graph fits. Now, in this case, it didn't work, okay? For circumstances such as these, you're going to need to do a little more work. You're going to have to go to zoom, and you're going to have to zoom out. And you're going to have to pick a place that you want to zoom out of. So it may take a little bit extra time, but you say, I want to zoom out from here. Push enter. And now it zooms out from that spot, and now you see the intersection, okay? It's a little extra work, okay? But you still get the intersection. And then you would do second, trace, you do number 5, okay? You do your first curve, your second curve. There is your intersection. When x is 12, y is 16, okay? You're not always going to get the automatic fit. You may have to zoom out, and to go back to standard, you do zoom 6. Zoom 6 takes you back to the standard graphing window, okay? So those are some quick snippets of how you can get through on some of the basics of using a calculator. I will also post the quick buttons into Google Classroom as well. But this is your first tutorial video, and there will probably be more in the future. Thank you for your time.